Welcome to episode 49 of Fire Sale Franchise. So let's take a look at what happened. Obviously, we went out in the wildcard round. So in the divisional round, the Titans and Jaguars met. The Titans winning. The Panthers lost to the Seahawks. The Broncos beat the Patriots. And the Falcons only just edged out the Cowboys in a low-scoring game. Then for the conference title, the Falcons fell to the Seahawks. But the Titans managed to beat the Broncos. And we get here to the Super Bowl. The Seahawks at the Titans. Well, I don't know why I said at the Titans. It's obviously a neutral game, but the Seahawks playing the Titans in the Super Bowl. So we will, of course, find out the winner of that game as we advance the week. But before we do that, we have some players to scout. Obviously, some news to keep an eye on as well, as we saw. Maybe it didn't come up on the left. Quarterback Gary Herron is the MVP of the All-Star game. I assume an early first-round pick. I would look at a quarterback later if there was one there that was of note, but I'm not looking for one. And a fun little fact here, if we would have made it to the Super Bowl, Lance Sitton would have been available to play again, and we'd have everybody back, but the reason we didn't make it to the Super Bowl was because everybody wasn't available for us. But we got some college players to count, some college players to scout, and once we've done that, we can move on, find out who wins the Super Bowl, and then we're off into the off-season stage. And having lost the first game in the playoffs, mainly due to injury, not pretending that we were doing that amazingly before everything fell apart, especially once Will Judy actually came in as the starter, we really started to get something going, I think. Those injuries certainly didn't help us. If we're gonna go and win the Super Bowl 2 out of 3 years, we're gonna need some serious firepower and some serious reinforcements, and one way to find those is in the first stage of the offseason. The next way, of course, is in the draft, the second stage of the offseason. But let's scout these players and move on. So there we go, that is everything done. Let's advance this week and see who won the Super Bowl. And the Seahawks beat the Tennessee Titans by a single point, 32-31. It's a shame, would have liked to see the Titans win a Super Bowl, but the Seahawks take it. I think they possibly already won one in our time here. I'm not entirely sure, but they're certainly doing well, I know that much. So finally now we're gonna get into the player negotiation stage. Now I know exactly what we need, and the man we can see there, we will re-sign. We had some problems at the linebacker position. So, Kyler Fackrell, of course, we already offered once. He liked the length, but not the money. And at a 77 overall, if we don't sign him, someone else will, I think. So we'll definitely have a go here. We do need him with the depth more than anything. We still have here $78 million in cap room. We could sign 7 extremely expensive players. Not that we're gonna do that, but we will obviously try and sign him here. There we go, we gave him a little bit of money there to play for us, and I believe it was under the fair offer, so we actually did alright. Keith Marshall obviously was important, however, I think we're at a stage now where, and I do feel bad about saying this for both of these guys, but I think we're moving on. You know, a Super Bowl win later, looking to win a Super Bowl next year. We're clearing space here. We do always have a full roster for some contributors that we do need. And I think it's time to let these guys, even Joshua Perry, these 3 guys who started for us in our first season, I think it's time to let them go. If we need them, they may be there waiting for us in free agency. Maybe not. Dee Milliner, however, only left him because he kind of turned us down. Definitely want to re-sign him, especially considering, and no offense to Ife Preolumu, but the drop-off was massive. When Dee Milliner plays nickel, we talk about Dee Milliner a lot. He makes plays. When Ife Preolumu played the nickel, it just wasn't the same situation. He barely came up. And that's obviously not against him because, well, if you don't say his name, it means he's not messing up either. However, Dee Milliner just always seemed to be around, and we need that. So the fair offer there is $2.9 million for 1 year. However, we want him for more than 1 year. We're going to offer him 2.9 over 3 with a $1 million signing bonus. Hopefully he'll take it. And that is exactly the offer he was hoping to get. Look at that. I'm a mind reader. Also, I just saw that he's 7 years in, which isn't a problem, but it does mean we've basically probably offered him his final NFL contract. Most likely. Dion Jordan we need to re-sign. Brandon Warford we definitely need to re-sign to a long-term deal because he is going to be our #1 return man. And that is also a point about Marquise Goodwin. We're going to let him go. Not very expensive, to be fair, but we're going to let him go. Mobo we're going to bring back. We'll continue to bring him back. We gave him exactly the offer he was hoping to get. Look at that. Perfect. Dion Jordan, I mean, the guy had 10 sacks for us last season. We want at least another 2 years out of him as well. Let's offer him that. Offering him a decent amount. I'm happy to sign and continue playing for a great organization. Thank you for re-signing. 10 sacks, we'll have it back. And we're offering Brandon Warford big money here. If fair offer was $1.7 million over 1 year, we're giving him a 4-year contract here, offering him 4 years instead of just the 1. We need him for the long haul. He is a great player. Obviously, we may never even see the end of those 4 years, but let's make it happen. The offer is perfect. I can't wait until next year. There we go, and that is it. So the people you see here, the people that were so important in our first year, we are not re-signing a lot of them. Everybody that we want to keep now has been re-signed. Keith Marshall, although he did a good job again filling in for our man Will Judy, we're gonna let him go. Test the free agency market. Maybe if nobody picks him up, we'll come back for him. But we're closing the book on an early chapter of this Fire Sale franchise and moving on into the next one. Here we are at the free agent stage. We can now sign free agents. And like I said, the people we can sign were the real life rookies from this past season. So we know who they are, obviously. But before I get into that, what I'm going to do is use all of this XP on everybody. And then obviously we have also a better idea of what positions need upgrading, because obviously sometimes we may think one needs upgrading, we have enough XP to turn someone into a seriously good player there. Not likely the situation, but let's take a look what we can do. So that is everybody upgraded. You can see here some of the new overalls of people, just pushed a little bit. I didn't exactly keep a great eye on everybody that was upgraded. Also, none of the overall jumps were huge. Will Judy, for example, with 59,000 XP or whatever we had to spend, and I spent that on things that will definitely help him be a significantly better player in terms of how we use him. Only went from a 72 to a 75. Obviously, a big problem is awareness that we don't tend to spend points on is a big part of overalls, so it doesn't tend to climb too much unless you're improving that. And before we jump into signing free agency, I'm going to take a look at a couple of rosters in the NFL and see if an 80 rated quarterback would be better than anything they have, and then have a look to see what they would be willing to offer us in exchange for a quarterback that is better than anything they already have. That is right, Logan Tammy, we are going to try and ship him out ourselves, shop him around and see what we can find. So I was able to find a total of 6 teams that could be potential suitors. Now we've got the Bills, whose best quarterback is an 80 overall, so the same as Tammy. That's still Tyrod Taylor. So I'm thinking the fact that Tammy's a lot younger will help us there. The Broncos, who currently don't have a quarterback on their team. Now, of course, like I said, we are at the free agent stage, but I figured I'd do this before they sign free agents, you know. If we can get them to go for one of those, rather than having to play the market, it could be good. We've still got Tammy on a rookie deal as well. They might be interested in that. The Cardinals, who have a 78 overall quarterback. The Eagles, with only a 65 overall quarterback. The Giants also have an 80 rated overall quarterback. And the Ravens, with Jimmy Garoppolo, 78 rating. So we've got 6 teams here. Now, the Broncos, of course, are the one we want, but I'm also going to look at the draft order of those teams and do it that way. It's not about who the lowest is. We go from the first pick to the last one, and we do it in that order, see who wants him. All right, so here is the order of things. The Cardinals, one of 4 teams with a starting quarterback under 80 overall, have the 2nd overall pick this year. The Ravens, 78 rated, a 13th overall pick. The Eagles, 17th overall. The Bills, 18th. The Giants, 20th overall. And then the team that obviously would look like the best fit, the one without a quarterback, the Broncos, the 29th overall pick. So, of course, we're trying to get another first rounder here, ideally. That's the kind of draft ammo you get for a quarterback. So we're going to go through them in that order. The Cardinals first, and see if they're going to give us a first rounder. So the interest is there. Logan Tammy for the Cardinals' first round pick, the 2nd overall pick this year. Are they going to go for it? Finding out, it's close. Now, it's not super close. However, can we offer them, you know, maybe a 2nd rounder to jump up to 2nd overall? I'd be interested. Let's start with a 3rd rounder. That could be enough. It was enough. We get the 2nd overall pick in this year's draft for a 3rd rounder and Logan Tammy. If it was anything later, I'd even feel slightly bad for Tammy, but Tammy goes and gets to start for a team because he's the best quarterback they've got now. And we get the 2nd overall pick. I should also mention we had 2 3rd rounders, by the way. That was one of our 2 3rd rounders, and I believe that wasn't even the one that belonged to us. So we now have 2 first round picks, 2 second round picks, mind you, 2 late second round picks. But the 2nd overall pick in the draft, we can do anything we want with that. And now let's go and have a look at what free agents we could even possibly sign. So I've been taking a look around at the free agents available, and I've got 4 players on my list. 4 players that I think will fit into this team very, very well. So here are the guys I've got. We start on the defense. And of course we have 3 linebackers that we really like, 3 linebackers that I wouldn't replace with anyone. But we do have problems. For the past 2 seasons now, we've had problems with health. Now, it was Kevin Pierre-Louis more than anybody else. He's been injured both of the past 2 seasons for certain stretches of time, but we lost Christian Stuckey for a while. We even lost Eric Nickerson for a while. Everybody at one point was injured, so I've decided if we sign Deion Jones, what we have is basically depth in the linebacking group that isn't really depth, it's more than we need. Basically, if we had Deion Jones, I would gladly, if it wasn't Kevin Pierre-Louis here, I would gladly have Deion Jones as a starting player for us. So Deion Jones there, I think, adds perfect depth. It's the kind of depth you have when you're not actually mad if someone gets injured, because you're just happy you get to play the other person more. So Deion Jones, I'm going to try and add to the team. And then the rest is on offense. We, of course, just traded away our quarterback, 80 rated Logan Tamme. Now, this is what I was thinking about, right? We have made some decisions here similar to the Browns where we've ended up with a lot of cap space. And if you have a lot of cap space, you can turn that into draft value through multiple ways. Now, the Browns obviously did it crazily. Nobody expected that. They have a lot of cap space, and everybody wants cap space. Now, the way you can turn that into draft value, like we saw with the Browns, is the fact you say, hey, we can give you our cap space. We'll take your player that has a huge contract. In return, you know, for a 2nd round pick, we'll take some value. We'll hold that fat contract for a while. We'll just take the hit because we can afford it. We have a lot of cap space. Another way you can do this is basically going out and basically paying for depth that you don't need because you can afford to do it. So if we were a full team near the cap, there is no way we would sign a guy like, say, maybe Carson Wentz, an 82 rated quarterback, because it would never make sense money-wise because we will pay him more than Lance Sitton. However, we have a lot of cap space. We can hold him on our roster for a year, sign him in free agency, have him ride our roster, and then we can trade him away. We were able to outbid everybody else. We carry the weight because we can afford to do it. We don't have to overpay him. We can just pay him now, and then we can load him off to somebody who's desperate for a quarterback that wasn't able to get him the first time around. And we can turn over draft value like that by carrying players that we don't necessarily need, but we can afford to have, and other teams maybe can't afford to have the time they're available. So Carson Wentz is the guy I'm looking at as our backup quarterback for the next season at an 82 overall. And then we look at the offensive line. We look at this, every other position really is quite strong now. Our starting 3 receivers are all 78 overall. Obviously would look a little bit better if they're all 80 overall, but they're good. Our running back is much better than his overall. Our fullback is very good. Our quarterback's almost a 90 overall. Our tight end is a 92 overall. Our offensive line still has some weak positions. I mean, Corey Wong modified is only a 75 overall. We've got Gomez behind him for some reason as better overall. But there are 2 linemen I'm looking at. Left guard, a weak position of ours. I'm looking at Laramie Tunsil to fill in that position. And then we can also bring in Taylor Decker at tackle. He's technically a left tackle, 85 overall. But if we throw him to the right side, or throw Nat Newsom to the right side, we'll have to see who's stronger, basically, who's a better right tackle there, who's got better run blocking. And that will completely reshape our offensive line from a group that's okay in some positions and weak. Left guard all of a sudden will be the best player on the line. Center still weak, but we've got some picks now to play with in the draft. And another point is, if we sign another offensive tackle, we then have basically 1 free tackle to try and trade away again, and we can play the same game with Logan Tamme. I don't think we'd get a first rounder for a tackle, but we've built that team now. We've had so many draft picks in recent years that we've built teams where we have leftover tackles if we sign another one because we still have the cap space. So those are the 4 players I'm looking at, and those are the 4 players I'm going to try and sign right now. Those are the reasons I'm trying to sign them. Sometimes it's just depth, sometimes it's thinking about the future, and other times it's really just improving our team where it needs improving. And I would like to reiterate, I'm not going crazy here with the fact we've got $60 million in cap room. I'm not going to sign Jerron Reed and then try and trade him away. We're not playing the game here. That's just one position, Carson Wentz. We take him on for a year, knowing that we can probably trade him away in the future because we can afford to take him. Other teams maybe can't. So Laramie Tunsil right now, $30 million over 5 years isn't even that bad, to be honest, for an 86 rated guy. Chiefs are favorites right now. Let's see if we can outbid them. So there we go. We're favorites there. $44 million over 5 years we've had to offer him to be able to get ahead of the Chiefs. Taylor Decker, another guy we're interested in. With those high points, we're probably going to have to pay him a lot. He's looking for 43 over 4. We can afford all this. That's the funny thing. Basically, Laramie Tunsil is only a cap hit of $5 million. That's 10% of our available space. We could sign pretty much every single available play here. Robert Kimdichie, Paxton Lynch, everybody that's available. Of course, we're not going to do that, but that's how much cap space we have. It's really quite ridiculous considering we're a Super Bowl winning team with a lot of talent. Wow! To be able to put an offer out there that makes us favorite for him, $50.5 million over 4 years. That's a serious jump over Laramie Tunzel. Of course, guard and tackle, they have different values. $44 million for 5 years for him. Taylor Decker, we're looking at a cap hit of close to $10 million a year. But like I said, we can carry it. We've got 2 more players we're looking at here. Carson Wentz without any offers right now, so we can probably put in just a fair offer for him. Again, gonna be expensive. He's a quarterback, of course, but we can carry it. Let's try it. We're looking at $10 million a year for Carson Wentz, and we can see our cap room starting to decline. It's about time we actually started spending some of it, and taking it down to probably about $20 million is still a lot of cap room, but finally looking, you know, using the space we have rather than just being happy that we've got a lot of space. And here's Deion Jones, popular. Again, we're gonna have to be outbidding the Chiefs here, who have put a serious offer on the table there, 88 points, which means we're gonna have to be paying him big money as well. But he's very cheap, $18.9 million over 5 years. We can see exactly what that works out as a cap hit, $2.45 million, that's it. He's got a modified overall of 81 as well. I do really like him. He's got that 88 speed, real nice play recognition as well, good block shedding. This kind of player we like, and it'll be a great backup. And of course we should, I don't know how smart this game is, but we should have a huge advantage as the Saints, of course, to get Deion Jones here. Hometown kid, would probably want to come home, I'm sure he would. He went to LSU, of course, is from the area, and we know what happened last season when he actually played in New Orleans. I'd like to think that would be the case. Let's just put in a simple low offer out here and see actually how that works in our favor. Actually don't know if, you know, your location has anything to do with it. It should, considering they've got a statistic, not a statistic, but a category for where you come from and stuff. But let's up this a little bit. We can pay him way more than what we have to here. Making his cap hit $3 million there, paying $3 million a year for Deion Jones. I'm sure we'll probably get someone in the bottom left corner. Some fake analysts saying we overpaid for him, but that gives us 92 points, makes us favorite for him. We're now favorites for all the guys we want. Let's advance the week. So here we go. Carson Wentz is on the team. Deion Jones is on the team. Decker is on the team, and Tunzel is on the team. Serious real-life upgrades here. Finally getting in some actual free agents. Of course, we brought in Ronald Darby and Mari Edwards Jr. last year, and they really worked out for us. It really helped us. Now we add depth in the middle linebacker position. We add depth at quarterback that we may be able to turn into some, you know, draft value later on. And Skip Bayless, look, says he's going to make Deion Jones going to make everyone regret passing on him. That may be the case. Let's see what he can do here with his hometown Saints. We just paid a lot of money for 4 players. Very good. And these 2 guys are going to make a serious difference on our offensive line. And Derek Milner has returned from injury. So, you know, I mean, the whole team's together now. So this, of course, is not the way the team will look, I don't think, anyway. I'll have to see with those 2. Laramie Tunzel definitely will be at left guard. And one of these guys, we don't need 4 tackles, not 4 good tackles over 80 overall. So I'll do the same. I'll find a team that doesn't have a right tackle over 80 overall and see if we can ship him off. I would think maybe for a second rounder. If it's a late first rounder, maybe even another first rounder, let's turn our depth into some draft value here. Turns out that 15 teams, and I believe actually I missed at least 2 because I started going for a slightly lower overall. At least 1 actually, so at least half the league has a right tackle, a starting right tackle that's under an 80 overall. We have at the moment 3 right tackles that are 80 overall or better. So let's find out which of those teams has the best pick, and there's a couple. Our number 1 I'm looking at right now, the Colts starting right tackle is a 66 overall. I think they'll be very interested in our player, and let's find out who has the best pick that we want to go for. So as I said, our favorite here are the Colts, and they have the 7th overall pick. Now I think a first rounder is probably unlikely. However, I'm not going to not try and get a first rounder. So here we go, Zach Houston, how do you feel about him? He's been our starting right tackle, so there is a guy, proven guy that, you know, led the way for the offensive rookie of the year. That's the kind of guy you'd give up a pick for if it was available. 7 is a bit early, but the Colts need a better offensive line, especially on the right side. Are they tempted by this? They are more tempted, and I think with a draft pick in exchange, we can swing it. So here we go, Zach Houston, 3rd round pick for your 1st round pick. Are you gonna do it? Yes, you are. We have a ridiculous ridiculous draft haul again. So we just sent Zach Houston to the Colts for the 7th overall pick in the draft. We already had the 2nd overall pick in the draft. Let's take a look at what picks we do actually have here. So we have the 2nd overall pick, the 7th overall pick, the 24th overall pick because we actually didn't finish too well ourselves, 2 second-round picks, a 3rd-round pick, a 5th, a 6th, and a 7th. We have turned our massive haul of draft picks in the previous seasons into another massive haul of draft picks and a super good-looking roster. The Fire Sale franchise continues to burn, and we just continue to build a better and better team every time. We can add big name free agents. You know, a new left guard, that's the best lineman we have. A new right tackle, that's the 2nd best lineman we have. We can trade away our quarterback, a right tackle. We have got it all going on for us right now. All we've got left to do is scout some more players, and then we can move into the draft stage of the offseason. There we go, that is everything done. Plenty of players I'm interested in this draft, and we happen to have a lot of picks for it. And here we are, draft week, the big one. We've got a whole bunch of picks. We're loading up to go back to the Super Bowl. Let's take a quick look at the free agency recap, see where some of the best players went. Chris Harris Jr. went to the Titans, Mike Iupati to the Rams, so they're shoring up their offensive line. Jerron Reed to the Browns, Lamar Miller to the Browns, TJ Green to the Lions, Robert Kimdichie to the Lions, Paxton Lynch to the Bills, Malcolm Jenkins to the Ravens, Kenny Clark to the Texans, Josh Doxson to the Bears, Jaden Smith to the Giants, moving across the division, Emmanuel Ogbah to the Rams, Sterling Shepard to the Rams, Matthew Ioannidis to the Titans, Blake Martinez to the Browns, Trey Mason to the Texans, Trey Flowers to the Colts, Jason Spriggs to the Browns, Daniil Hunter to the Bills, and that's pretty much it for worthwhile people worth mentioning. We can see some of those made up players and stuff. And next year, you know, I won't actually know who's available or not because, well, I won't be able to recognize them from draft year because there'll be all the made up players. Von Bell going to the Broncos, moving on from us obviously having gotten rid of him in the first year. Miles Killebrew to the Eagles, and that really is pretty much it here for those players. That is the shape of stuff. And the draft will come in the next episode, and we will also be back to 2 episodes a week, starting with the draft, and that all kicks off next Monday.